Hey everyone, it's Invisible Walls, episode 153. Marcus is out moving in with his lady today, and Shane has now got the undead virus that I had. So it's me, Ryan Stevens, somewhat hosting the show, though Shane will be in later today. Joining me is Mike Damiani.
Hello.
And Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey.
And Justin Spear.
Yo.
So we're going to have a great show today, so stick around.
I'm Patrick Sutherland. I've been a car nut since I was 5. I drive the BMW Z4 GT3 for Team Need for Speed.
We have our resident racing expert, Daniel Bloodworth, here to fill us in on Shift 2. You play a lot of racing games, dude.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I start to feel like I'm getting burnt out on, especially this year.
Is that a pun?
No, it's not. It's totally not. There's so many, and there's some that I think I might not even get around to. Which
like MotoGP
I don't mind. NASCAR I kind of want to check out, but I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to. And then of course there's the Ridge Racer 3DS and everything else.
I mean, I kind of see when all these games, pardon me, I kind of see all these games kind of converging a little bit. Like there's, like, I mean, this is a Need for Speed game, and I know it's based off the last Shift, but it's kind of got that realism thing going for it.
I mean,
is the racing genre
this is
itself
actually like a sub-brand of Need for Speed now, and this is their more.
They're franchising out, I guess.
Well, it's called Shift, not Need for Speed Shift.
But I mean, do you see, like, I don't know, racing games in general kind of becoming just kind of ubiquitous with each other? They're just kind of a gray goo, or
no? It's like everybody has these different strengths. You know, it's interesting because we have Shift where they're doing a really good job with the AI and with really kind of I think the kind of untouted thing about Shift is how it has all these little micro rewards like turning corners, and mastering every corner on the track and that kind of thing. But it doesn't have nearly the kind of car selection or community that GT5 or Forza has, and it's not as in depth in terms of handling and the track surfaces.
And there's a fair amount of cars, but not a gargantuan amount, right?
Right. Yeah, and they do a good job of focusing on having the right cars, probably some of the most desirable cars, and not having like a bunch of like 6 or 7 Gallardos or something.
No, I think the first Shift was also a pretty good game, right? I think it kind of underperformed compared to other Need for Speeds. Even I mean, let's be honest, like the crappy Need for Speeds sell a million. John Chang probably has our audio guy probably has a small library of Need for Speed games resting in his house. I mean, do you think, like, I don't know, I mean, who is this game for? That's a good Shane question, right?
I think it's for people that want a realistic experience that still has a sense of thrill to it. Because I mean they've done a lot with just the presentation of the helmet cam and things flying in your face, and again the AI being there, which is probably Gran Turismo's biggest downfall is the AI still kind of has that train feel, and you knock into them and they don't seem to react. Whereas it's like you knock into somebody, they're probably gonna spin out, and you're not gonna do too well either. So you really do have to be aware of the other drivers.
But wasn't the AI, they kind of downplayed the whole like rivalry thing, right? Didn't the last one like you could like get people angry at you or something?
I think you can still do that. I
mean,
had some people fucking murder me when I was playing at a preview event. The dude just
AI?
like going out of his way almost. I was just totally destroyed, and I was like, is this normal? Because I'm getting
I think that part of the AI behavior is there, but I think they've gotten rid of this whole driver personality thing. And when I was at the review event, they were kind of they were saying that was almost more of a concession to the Need for Speed franchise because they were the only Need for Speed game that year. And so like having the aggressive driving and having the star ratings and things like that were all just because they were trying to satisfy everyone. And now this time around they were able to focus a little bit more on being the kind of racer they want to make and being more of a sim.
I know you're the resident bug magnet of our group here. Were there any cool irregularities that you experienced when playing Shift 2? I know you brought me over to check out that sun thing going on with the pixelated sun
I
stuff.
didn't manage to get that in the review. That was the glare from the sun. It's like got all this nasty pixelation all around inside of the cockpit. One of the things that kind of brought down the presentation score.
If you actually stare at the sun
mentioned.
in real life, sometimes you do get a bit of that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but it wasn't
for about 10
the
minutes.
actual sun itself. It was just
Are you
like
endorsing
the glow of it.
Staring into the sun.
And try this at home.
Warning.
The big weird thing in this game is just the paint schemes don't save, and and it's
That's a bug, right? I mean, you'd have to say.
I would think so. It's either a bug or a flaw in how they designed it. I don't know, but I noticed because like a lot of times I'll be doing races at home, and I'll save the replay so I can capture that race if I thought it was a good race or whatever when I get back to the office. And I went back to the race, and I had this Supra that I painted blue, and I go to my replay and it's red. I'm like, what the heck is it red? So I painted this car, this really nasty, ugly color, like this metallic green with like a white hood with like cow speckles or something on the front of it. And I went back to the replay to see if that stuck, but it stuck, but it stuck to every one of my replays with every car I had. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then I tried one more thing. I turned the power off. I turned it back on. I went back to my replay. Now my car that I painted all ugly was just a normal red. So it's just not saving the paint jobs in the replays, which I thought made paint jobs kind of pointless.
Did you still have your sweet rims?
It did actually save the rims.
Were they sweet?
They were blue. I don't know how sweet that is.
I don't either. Johnny, are blue rims sweet?
Amazing.
They're amazing. Okay, good to know. Any final thoughts or final words?
Well, I mean, I think some people are kind of eyeing it as being kind of weird that I have, this is an 8, I gave it an 8.9, even though I think it's better in pretty much every way than the first shift, which I gave a 9.1. And I think it's just one of those things where it's a march of time. The racing genre is something where every year everyone is just constantly upping the game. And if we just kept making the score better every time, we'd hit the ceiling in no time. And, every racing game would have to be a 10 because it's better than the last one.
Well, publishers would like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
やっぱ派手すぎるよね。そうかな。嬉しい。もうそんなにジロジロ見ないでよ。
Next up, Justin will regale us with tales of Yakuza 4, the brilliant Sega RPG brawler thingy that somehow keeps making it to the States, which is a pretty good deal, right?
With lots of fan service.
But no Shenmue.
Yeah. Well, this is just Shenmue replacement, effectively. A lot of Sega games share similar, the fighting has a similar feel from like Yakuza to Shenmue to Virtua Fighter. You can tell it's there. I think it's a good. Wow. Did anyone see that the weird, the Mega 64 thing for the
with the
Shenmue?
Shenmue?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Not that. We're a little off track. So yeah, you can basically watch a review, if you want to find out about the game.
Oh, you're being a dick.
Oh man, that's good.
I guess I
don't know.
I mean, review my review.
I mean,
here.
you've played all the Yakuzas except for 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Now everybody knows. I could easily have pretended like I played 2.
Well,
Because
sorry.
you can watch
now I outed you.
You can go to the reminisce option in any of the other games, and you can kind of watch the cinemas from.
But
2.
I mean, this one was way more restored, right? Or the fan service, like Daniel was talking about, right? Then like 3 got kind of gutted.
Well, 3, yeah, you could still go on dates with hostesses, but they just chopped out a lot of dialogue for things. They got rid of some optional games that maybe North Americans aren't so into, shogi and mahjong. Most of them, depending, definitely.
But this one's supposed to be like the full featured package, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
can you
a
lot
see
of
that
stuff.
it's a little beefier than 3?
It is a really beefy and robust game. It's a kind of game that has a world that's kind of it's fleshed out enough, and there's enough there to where you can get into a few activities or like gravitate toward what you like, and even if you don't touch some of the stuff, you don't feel like, oh, I'm missing out on something in the game. It's like a big enough world to where it relieves you of the burden of seeking out content for I gotta what do they have, or do they have enough stuff in this world, is it enough to immerse me? There's a ton of stuff, and you can kind of pick and choose.
I mean, I've only played the first Yakuza, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm happy that Sega keeps bringing them out. I'm just curious, like, I just wish it would find like more of a bigger audience. I mean, it's got a kind of the name is it doesn't really pop off at the store shelves and stuff, but I feel like more people would enjoy this game if they gave it a chance.
Well, they're really cool games. If you're looking for a game that like, I want a game where I can just like play it off and on for like a month or a couple of months. If you're like a completionist, this game is this will keep you busy for an extremely long time. I think when I finished the game, I had put like like around 40 hours into it, my completion percentage is like 27% or something like that.
Wow.
Maybe not. I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but there's a ton of optional stuff. There's a ton of stuff to max out. The sub-stories in this game, some of them, even if it's optional content, some of the sub-stories actually have cutscenes that are CG cutscenes. Like there's one side story where the loan shark like loans this dude some money, and the guy says he needs it for his kidnapped daughter, but really he's put it in a hotel bathtub, and he's his wife is in it naked, and then you walk in and the guy's in his underwear, and then you savagely beat the hell out of him, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll get it later. Go ahead and take a bath in the money." But there's a lot of stuff that you might not see that is just there.
That was an optional.
It's a game with a
slice
shitload of stuff to do, and the combat, it's pretty fun. The heat moves, which are kind of the best thing about the combat, it's probably one of the best executed kind of quick time events, just in terms of the feedback you get and the feel of it.
What about the heat moves in ping pong?
Yeah, the heat moves in ping pong. You stare at boobs and then you can do a huge smash and get a point almost without fail. There's a ton of heat moves. You can learn them you can observe things in the environment. You can train with people. There's just a ton of moves. They feel awesome to pull off. There's 4 characters. Each character is, these are not minor differences to characters. Each one has a full, level up various things. You'll go through the story, play all 4 people. You probably won't max any of them out before you get to the point where everyone meets up. There's just a ton of stuff to do, and it's a great game to just chill out and play and enjoy.
It always seemed like one of those series that did a good job of actually combining and mixing up different genres, and it doesn't really feel too out of place or draws you out so much. I mean, the random battles, when you realize you're kind of getting into random battles on the street, it's a little weird, but
it's true. They are avoidable, but a lot of times when the game is super story heavy, maybe a little too story heavy, and that it gives you things in huge. It gives you things in huge chunks. Yes, there are parts. Each character has a part, and then there are chapters within those parts. But what were we talking about?
Just
the random battles. But I mean, you get so much story, and you're like, man, I haven't actually been playing the game or doing anything for a while, and then some guy comes up to you and is like, hey buddy, you stepped on my contact, and you're like, oh, you stupid fuck. And most of the random battles they're not really high stakes things. This is an opportunity for you just let off steam, beat the shit out of people, level yourself up, and then you take that experience and for the actual difficult battles that are tied to the story.
I mean, despite it offering so much, from different things, I mean, do you think perhaps maybe just a lot of players just draw, incorrectly comparisons between it and maybe Grand Theft Auto and
it's just in no way a GTA. It is a really gamey game. It's a very arcade-like game, and it's fighting, and it's a very traditional RPG type game, and just there's a lot of text when you go down the street. Mostly you'll see things in text. But I mean, while Mass Effect has you're in the Citadel and there are these well rendered NPCs and they have full voice and stuff, the sheer volume of stuff in Yakuza still, you get a similar effect. There's a shitload of people. Even if they're popping out of the distance, you're like, oh, that's a huge crowd. These people are randomly saying things. The actual city changes a lot, and it's so big that you can't really scrutinize the small areas and be like, wow, this is the exact freaking same as it was, whatever. And I'm not dissing Mass Effect or anything. That's valuable, but you'll quickly learn that these people are always standing in the same freaking place. It's a little more, they just hide it through sheer volume, right? But yeah, it's a really gamey game and then kind of an arcade-like game, but there's a ton of good stuff to do with it. And if you go through the story, just moving through the city introduces you to, the interesting side stories. Or you see oh, there's a batting cage over there. I could duck into that. And, someone will walk up to you and pull you into a side quest, or you'll get, someone starting a random battle. The game just really, going through the game, you're naturally exposed to just a ton of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to do, and it's pretty good. I like it. The end.
もう何やってるの？あなたも早くいらっしゃい。
So we have summoned Shane back from the dead to join us. Hi Shane, how you doing?
So Demon Souls style.
Did I look this bad last week or 2 weeks ago?
What do you
Not really.
I look bad.
You definitely look a little ill.
Yeah, I am ill.
Well, I'm glad that you can make it.
Well, folks, I am trying to save you by not hosting the show. I know you don't want to listen to me like this for 40 minutes.
And viruses can go through MP3 files as well, obviously. So we're going to talk a tad about, we recently put out a top 10, and there's always, some controversy, but this one seems to be another one people generally like. And kind of just talk about, with the 3DS coming out and everything, just kind of talking about, we talked about system sellers, but I think it's also kind of interesting to look at launches. Maybe a top 10 launches is in the horizon, I'm not sure, but it's definitely definitely an interesting topic, especially when you start looking at what launches are like for systems so much.
Well, I think I mentioned in our Madden review for the 3DS that with launch software, they kind of operate on a curve, and you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt in some ways because you realize that they're under tight restrictions to get the games done. But in Madden's case, I think it pushed the goodwill over the brink.
Yeah.
I think your expectations for launch software are a little lower than what you expect a year into a platform's life cycle. But there's no excuse for some of the 3DS software being in the shape that it was.
And some of that first-party software. I mean, I'm still so surprised that Steel Diver and Pilot Wings just, like, lack of content
You
in
could
these
literally
games.
finish either of those games in a night.
And I know people are arguing that, you know, for the full unlocks, it's a huge game, but, like, getting there is fairly tedious. Like, some of that Pilot Wing stuff is fun to go through a couple times, but with that difficulty ramp-up, it's not really that much fun to unlock those platinum challenge or diamond challenges or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the first few difficulties were like too easy, and then it just immediately goes to you're gonna try this over and over and over again until you make 0 mistakes to get it. So.
And let's not forget, I mean, the venue, it's just Woohoo Island from Wii Sports Resort. A lot of that just carried over assets. I just think it's a little bit lazy. I mean, they were trying to showcase 3DS's capability, but I believe, as you said in your review, it wasn't like the best thing to like use to showcase like the 3DS.
Well, Shane did Pilot Wings, but I mean,
Shane.
Steel Diver, and then Steel Diver was a tech demo from what, 6 years ago?
Yeah, and how much full price release for that? I mean,
there's just not a lot of content.
Yeah, it's like all these
Content's
games.
king. I mean,
is.
And then the third party stuff. I mean, everyone keeps pointing to Street Fighter. Like, Street Fighter is a must-have title, but I feel like it's a year-old game, and on Capcom's end, it's great because they prove a game that a console type experience can be done on the 3DS. A game that looks almost as good as like a console version is on the 3DS, and it's got as much features in it as the console versions, if not a little bit more. But it's a year-old game they put on there, and you look to what's coming out after this launch lineup, they've got like nothing for like the next 3 months. The only thing they have are tentative dates for a few games, possibly in June. And Iwata talked about that they did not want to have this software gap. He said the Wii and the DS, like our biggest fault was right after launch. We had this gap of software. We want to avoid that again. But if you look at the known list of games coming out, they're doing it again.
You're right.
So I don't know what's going on here. I'm a little concerned.
Anecdotally, we've seen around Los Angeles, there are units for sale all over the place. I mean, Ryan, you said you picked yours up last night at Best Buy.
Yeah, there was at least maybe upwards of 20 units left.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty stupid for pre-ordering mine now.
Well, they did. Reggie had done an interview before that said, we're going to make sure we avoid the scenario we had with Wii. We're going to have units for every consumer on launch day.
Yeah, I mean, but there weren't even really lines, right, at midnight on launch day.
It sold a ton of copies. I mean, it's definitely moving units.
It's going to be interesting to see the actual hard numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bit of a line at the GameStop I went to, but no, I think it's just like what you said, Justin, with the quote from Reggie's that I think they learned their lesson that, like, high demand but short supply. Like, they lost probably a lot of sales on the Wii and DS initially, and they didn't want to make that mistake again.
The hardware has, like, with the AR games and face raiders built in. I'm hearing, again, I can't see 3D because I'm a pirate. People are saying the AR games is the best 3D out of the launch lineup. I mean, are you guys finding that?
I don't know if I go that far.
I don't know if it's the best 3D, but
or most showcasey.
It's the coolest game.
Yeah,
it's the coolest thing after E3
as
well. I didn't even know what it was. Remember, I talked about it. I was like, there was this weird demo that I played in the Nintendo booth where it took pictures of people's faces and put them in the game. I didn't even know what it was called, but that was like the one thing that stuck out for me from the show. I was like, it showed what the 3DS can do or what it's capable of.
But now the question kind of goes back to, like, when we were talking about the top 10 system sellers, Bloodverse, there's been some ire over what was it?
Wii Sports.
Sports, and
which I'm like, are you living in a cave to not know how many people bought a Wii for Wii Sports?
Because it's a package.
That's why most
right?
people bought the Wii is for Wii Sports.
And
it doesn't
let's
matter
not
if it's a package.
Let's not forget Tetris is a pack-in too.
Right.
And now there's this kind of question, like a lot of,
a system seller is a game that people buy the system to play. That's all there is to it.
But to kind of relate it back to the 3DS, I mean, I've bought no software. I know, Damiani, you didn't buy anything.
I haven't bought any actual games.
A game, Daniel?
Yeah, I bought Lego Star Wars.
Lego Star Wars.
I mean, but we're spoiled. We have the whole library sitting here. We have access to it for free. But I do think that, it goes back to what you say.
Quasi
Content is
pack-in
king
here.
I think even as cool, with hardware as cool as the 3DS, we still forgot about the fact that hardware is kind of pointless unless you have software to play on it.
Yeah.
And while I think maybe Nintendo did flood the channels with more units than we expected, I think if they had a really good game out of the gate, we would have seen a sellout.
But my question, I guess, is at this point, is AR games and face raiders kind of the killer?
I think that would be it's kind of the system seller. It's on your system already. It's easy. They have an option in face raiders. It's like, show this to friends, or like, this is the quickest way to show this game off to friends. And
Well, I mean,
yes, you're like, if
But
you show
it's
people
not.
that, I showed it.
Yeah,
I
but
showed
they're
it to
not
my
killer
wife.
apps.
I mean, it's not marketed
They're
as much
cool.
as Wii Sports
Well, the
was.
3D is a
like
killer
mini
app.
bosses
Yeah,
of
so- yeah,
systems.
exactly.
The tech itself
The
is a
tech
killer
is.
app. You just need some way to show that off.
But going back to that, like, let's look at the N64 launch in the U.S. Pilot Wings, Mario 64. That
Wave
is a
Race.
better. That didn't hit launch.
Wave Race 64. Oh, no, I'm thinking
No,
of
it was
GameCube.
launched
Blue
when-
Storm. Blue Storm was
But
the wrong one, yeah.
I would say those two games, that was a tiny launch, right? That's a stronger
That's about
launch.
as tiny as it gets.
That's a stronger launch
Yeah.
than 3DS, though.
It's
Well,
the
you had one
quality.
of the best games ever released at
But
that point.
it was also a great technological showpiece for, I mean, that 3D there and the interactivity
And you could stretch
the
his
analog
face.
stick.
That's
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
rad, right?
Well, if they had a Mario game for the 3DS at launch, I guarantee the system would have sold out. Guarantee it.
I mean, I agree. That's what I feel is that they didn't have the recognizable IP at launch. Even if it was just like, and Nintendo DS had the remake of Super Mario 64 DS on there.
Right.
Wasn't
it's
it
still selling.
Yeah,
well.
it sold well. They just didn't put like a killer app out that you had to buy that was going to get people in line. When I was waiting in line, everyone was asking, "Oh, when does Zelda come out?" You know, they were like, "Isn't Ocarina of Time supposed to be out?"
When is this game I played 10 times already?
That's
coming
all
out?
they were asking about was like Zelda and apparently the Resident Evil game. Like, oh, when does the Resident Evil game come out? And I mean, no one there was really that interested in the games. Like, I just want the system to I want to see the 3D movies and the photos. They want to fiddle around with the technology. They're like the game. Like, I guess I'll buy a game because I gotta have one. But
I'll say this too. Now that we've had our 3DSs, I guess.
3DSi? No, that's
For-
going to be
for-
the next revision. Right?
Yeah, for a couple weeks now. I mean, I kind of regret. I just literally before I walked in here, just got my Amazon pre-order in the mail, and I didn't even open it. I'm like, what am I going to do with this now? I mean,
Well,
I honestly kind of regret buying
Opening
it
your
now.
Christmas present beforehand,
Gotta
playing with it.
unlock your AR games, dude. Get
Yeah,
the
I mean,
graffiti function.
I want to set it up so we can all do street pass around here and blah blah blah. But at the same time, I'm like, did I really need to spend the money on this now? And then if in 8 months they're like, oh, here's the version that has a 20-hour battery, I'm gonna be pretty pissed off.
Well, you can change the battery though. That's the nice thing.
And I guess
you
Nyko
can?
already,
Yeah.
Nyko already
that's
released
good.
some
Yeah.
app or some device to extend it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. It was an interesting launch. Like, I mean, looking back at
Lots
the
of games. That's the crazy part. How many games there are?
like
but
13 or
16,
15,
15,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
how
but
many of them are
everyone
just
wants into that
ports?
action.
Like, I mean,
Rayman 2.
yeah, I mean that game is how
Bust a
old?
Move is
Yeah.
not good.
I mean,
Yeah,
The
well, how do
first
you
party
put Bust-
games
Bust
lack-
a Move with no multiplayer?
Lack
Yeah,
content.
you can get
it's
multiplayer
Bust a
on your
Move.
iPhone.
You should be able to download it.
The
for
iPhone
$5.
version, the iPhone version for $4 is like, or $5 is like more robust than.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's kind of embarrassing.
I think
I
Another
feel
thing
a
that
little
probably
bad.
hurt it is that the eShop is not available at launch. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you didn't have these games, they advertise like you get Link's
Oh,
Awakening DX and Super Mario Land. You can't even get that at launch. Like the
The
Wii
internet
had
browser
that.
isn't ready.
I mean,
but
They already
but
have
it's a
the
much more.
DSi.
It's funny that it is like with the kind of operating system. It's the more robust operating system it kind of has now. It like when you set it up, it right away it's like, yo, let's set up the internet, man. And you're
Oh,
like,
yeah,
let's
of
do
course.
it. And then it's like, what am I?
But you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, the user experience is pretty good on that thing though. Like it marches you through things pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, the hardware's freaking awesome. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any doubt about it. I'm really impressed with just about every facet of it, but there's just nothing to do with it once you burn out on AR games and face raiders.
I mean, it's like I was looking at like the PS3 and the Xbox 360 launch, and the PS3 was kind of buttressed that it had all these cross-platform things that were able to help it, and the Xbox actually, I remember people gave it a lot of shit, and some of those games maybe weren't as a little rose-tinted, but it was a good enough launch where you like, especially if you had like an HD TV, you could pop in Cameo or what was it, Call of Duty 2 or something like that, or
No, there were good games at
even
launch.
Condemned. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, even King Kong may not be a game you want to own, but it was kind of fun to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, it was also the tech, kind of like the 3DS. The tech at that point was a pretty strong measure above what we were used to at that point. So even crappy games, you kind of enjoyed them for a little bit just to sort of bask in the visual splendor, so to speak.
And then, in the end, it kind of comes back to like Street Fighter being this kind of weird game where it's technically impressive and it works pretty well on the hardware, but do you really need it again if you already have it, on your console? which a lot of the fans do. I mean, do you
Right.
really want to play a fighter? I know you said the internet's really robust, so you do have that multiplayer aspect, but
6 times.
Yeah.
we're gonna have a
Keep it
counter.
up. Keep it
Well, I
up.
mean, the argument is like, how much is this? How much is a 3DS, and how much is a copy of Super Street Fighter 4 3D, and how much is the base model Xbox 360 and Super Street Fighter 4? I mean, yeah,
Obviously, the difference being you
Yeah.
can go wherever you want and play it on the 3DS.
and
For
you don't
3.5
get
hours.
Yeah.
And 360 doesn't have online for free, and the PS3 is a little bit more expensive for the base model. But for in the same ballpark, you can get the console version, and that's what people who are continuously playing Street Fighter are playing. Or you can get the 3DS version, be wowed by it initially, then are you really gonna be playing it a month or two after you bought it? I mean,
Yeah.
I will say this about the 3DS: the metagame stuff, like the Street Pass. Like, that actually has me like carrying my 3DS all over the place to
yeah,
get
it's
those
cool.
coins.
Yeah.
Like, I remember.
And I'm telling you, I'm gonna put this out there because I want everyone to start doing this. Make sure you're on sleep mode while you're in the car, because traffic is where we're gonna pick people up.
I did
It's
get
gonna
a
track
random
your school
guy.
buses now.
I mean,
and
it's
be like,
close
Hey
enough.
kids.
42.
You got some coins.
Yeah, I mean, I know we already kind of graded the launch lineup, but I was just curious if, since I'm kind of taking on Shane's duties, I was wondering if we could go around the horn. Was there any particular launch that stood up? I mean, a lot of us here couldn't afford a lot of these systems when they launched, so you kind of waited for the birthday or the Christmas or mow a fuck ton of lawns or something like that. But I mean, is there any particular launch that kind of like really stood out for anyone as being like this is a pretty awesome launch?
Dreamcast for me.
Same
Yeah,
here.
Dreamcast had a ton of good stuff. I bought House of the Dead, Soul Calibur right away. I'm like, it's the arcade in my home.
Well, then even for people,
For real
people
this
like
time.
sports, NFL 2K
Yeah, they had
was
some good
literally
sports
for the
games.
time like mind blowing. I mean, there was just even Ready to Rumble.
Power Stone's really fun. Anyone could play it. It's not like a hardcore fighting
That was the
game.
kind of point where we actually had a little bit of money too. Like, I had a friend who was a couple years older than me, and he bought, pardon me, 80% of the launch lineup. Do you remember the disc rot on those launch games?
I didn't have any problem with that, but I
He had
remember
so
the
many.
story.
And then, even like a game like Blue Stinger at that point was
Dude,
like,
a lot of people bought that game, which was
Yeah,
a
it
total
was-
piece of crap.
it was kind of fun to go through. You can drink
but
some
there was
Hassies.
like Ready to Rumble.
Can we show that video that your friend made?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it was also a very noticeable measure better than what we had played before. I mean, the Dreamcast compared to the N64 and the PlayStation, it was quite a step up. So even games that maybe weren't that great, like Ready to Rumble Boxing, they looked so good. Just watching the animation and seeing, these cartoonish characters modeled with such detail. I mean, there was a draw there to that.
And Soul Calibur was
Well, I mean,
amazing.
Soul Calibur, that's the first time that the home console game looks better than
The
what's out in
arcade,
arcade. You're like,
right.
damn, this game looks good.
Other than like ColecoVision. ColecoVision was sort of that other one where it finally, but I mean, it was a different era for the arcades, obviously.
Yeah,
But that was like the first system that hit the arcade level, and then it would happen again with the Dreamcast once the arcades had moved into 3D.
Well, and don't forget the Dreamcast. Like, a lot of those games looked better than the PS2 launch titles.
because of the anti-aliasing chip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be honest, Sonic at the time when we were talking about launch titles giving them the curve, Sonic Adventure was fun when you first played it.
I'm
You'll
not a big
disagree?
fan of that.
No, I mean, I don't think it survived the test of time at all.
Yeah, I really didn't even enjoy that game when it first came out, in all honesty. I thought it looked great,
But-
and I was like, wow, this is a sign of things to come, but as far as the game itself, I wasn't that impressed.
Power Stone forever.
Word.
You think you'll get away with this?
I already have, Jill.
Do you have it?
Maybe. You'll have to kill me to find out.
Well, there's no Resident Evil 6, but Capcom has blessed us with Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, which is, I guess Patrick called this a couple months ago or something, that the SOCOM team will be making a cooperative shooter in the Resident Evil universe. Is there any initial thoughts to that idea when you hear that?
I was thinking either Outbreak or Left 4 Dead. I'm not sure which one they're going for.
Outbreak being the quasi-online thing
Yeah.
they had before? Yeah.
All I'm going to say is I'm glad it's not Resident Evil 6.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that going back to Raccoon City is cool. I mean, I'm glad we're seeing zombies again. It's been a while for RE.
The slow, shambling masses. Is that what it's going to be?
I don't know. I mean, well,
Are they going to run now? Or,
They'll have the Crimson Heads in or something.
Yeah,
I think they're going to have to keep it somewhat fast. But, I mean, from the teaser they released, it looks like it's hordes, though. It looks like there's tons of guys.
Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with the cannon there? If can you make the zombies fast? I mean, with the remake, they did have the running zombies in it, which didn't make too much sense because you never saw it in the original. But
I mean,
Cannon schmannon.
I mean, there's gonna be more than just just the regular zombies. They said that lickers and the hunters, like the more aggressive types of monsters from the T-virus, are gonna be present in there. So I mean, even if the zombies aren't up to the speed you're liking, I'm sure there are gonna be quite a bit of enemies you encounter that
There'll be some tyrants, right?
Yeah,
I saw I
think they said something about
tyrants.
What is your objective exactly, right? I mean, unlike Left 4 Dead, you're not running to a safe house. You have a job to do, right?
Yeah, I think what I heard is that, or what they're posting is that basically you're like a containment team sent in to contain and cover up the Raccoon City incident, which means contain the T-virus and then wipe it out. And in any you apparently have authorization to kill civilians and stuff if they're a threat. If you think they might become infected, it's basically put a lid on this situation and cover it up. It seems a little bit. I mean, Resident Evil's always been gruesome, but this kind of different tone they're taking. You could be killing innocent people and stuff. It's definitely.
If you're trying to cover something like that up, how can you leave anybody alive?
Well, the nuke at the end, the cannon. In the cannon story, they nuke the city anyway. So
nuclear cannon.
Yeah, but I mean, the concept's kind of cool. You're going in as a team of 4. You're in there to wipe everything out. It's not your traditional Resident Evil at all, which I think some of us can agree that the series was kind of needed something different.
Well, I hope that it becomes scary again. I mean, that was sort of our big gripe when we talked about RE5, is that it kind of lost the horror angle at this point. So hopefully they go back to that and it doesn't turn out to be this campy.
Well, I mean, with 4-player co-op and everyone has assault rifles, I don't know how scary it's going to get.
Right. Were there any scary moments in Left 4 Dead for those of you who played it, or is it just kind of intense?
I thought there were. There were some.
They were the
moments.
Jump out the window stuff, or you hear the music, or if the tank runs in. There's the kind of the randomized factor of it. I mean, you're seeing the same scenarios again and again, so it's variations on a theme. I don't know if scary, but there's definitely really cool, got you more of an action movie than a horror game.
Well, I think there's moments where you see how well the zombies can navigate the environments, and that scares you. So you see them climbing up the side of a building and up onto the roof and start running across the roof at you. I think that was the kind of fear that you got from Left 4 Dead.
Or if you're the only survivor at one point, or some guy's hanging off a wall, you're how am I going to lift this guy off? Why'd you fall off?
The other thing about it is it is squad based. There's 4 members. I think one of them, there's a character. They showed the character designs for who you're going to be playing as. One of them, the hooded character, has the ability to optic camouflage. So there's you can be stealth and stuff. So I guess there's going to be jobs and loadouts and stuff like that.
I wonder if zombies can smell you.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
A lot of the people have been, the initial knee-jerk reaction is the character design's kind of not, they're what is this? But I mean, and then we got to look at who's actually developing this game.
Yeah.
The guys behind the B team of SOCOM, as I like to call them.
At what point does this franchise jump the shark as well? I mean, it's
5.
I think it kind of did already, right?
Was there a Game Boy Color game on a cruise ship or something?
No, there was that was you're thinking of maybe I think there was, but there was Dead Aim on PlayStation.
Yeah.
No, isn't the cruise ship the new one on 3DS?
That's Revelations.
Yeah.
If you don't want the
or Return to the cruise ship that no one remembers.
I know. I'm pretty sure they put this Resident Evil 1 remade on Game Boy Color. I thought.
Yeah, I think that's another one, but I may be wrong. But
there's a ton of spin-offs.
There was a really lame aiming system with it was when when Patrick's trying to escape the cage in WWE. It's kind of like that. You have to line up things in the middle. I don't know. My kind of question is this game going to be really twitchy, or is it going to be kind of a slower pace?
Well, it's third person, right?
Yeah.
So that pretty much guarantees a somewhat slower pace, I think.
Yeah,
I saw some. It looked kind of fancy feet action with a guy kind of strafing around in a little mini circle. And I honestly hate to see that. I don't have a problem with moving while you're shooting. That's great, but I mean, I wish they would kind of slow it down a little bit, because honestly, Left 4 Dead to me, it's I'm running 45 miles an hour. It's you're piloting some kind of fucking biomech.
You're right. Yeah.
But this seems like it's kind of in response. I mean, that's what I guess the fan base of Resident Evil is always crying why can't I run and shoot in these games? And is this a response by Capcom? All right, you asked for it, here you go.
We're gonna make this shit robust.
Maybe
we asked for it.
Maybe they'll teach their fans a lesson. You asked for it. Be careful what you wish for.
What you asked for, you just might get it.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Daniel will probably be seeing it at some point.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see.
It's an interesting place.
Yeah, I'd give it a chance, And co-op shooting zombies is.
Well, that's the other issue, I guess, is Left 4 Dead sucks solo.
Hasn't Capcom learned about giving its
What's the
IP
AI
to other developers yet?
If you play by yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is all of those things that they've done.
Bionic Commando,
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising 2 was okay.
But I'm talking about
Dead Rising 2
sales-wise, though.
totally
They've
works.
all kind of bombed, haven't they?
Dark Void, which was a new IP, but still
Yeah.
developed out of house.
But I mean, Japanese developers make competent shooters? I mean, have they proven that yet?
I mean,
they
Lost
haven't.
Planet
Yeah.
wasn't exactly a.
So maybe that's why they have to keep trying the Western
If they
developers.
put some melee in there, they can, it'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Well, at least it's back in Raccoon City. That's gives me some hope.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Why does
much.
everyone hate Resident Evil 3 so much is what I want to know. The game's awesome.
You just like killing Nemesis and feeling like a badass.
It's good. Also, that's
Yeah,
where
you get, like,
that's where
gun parts.
that's where Dying Crisis 2 and the whole Mercenaries game came out of. Resident Evil 3.
No,
and
I
you're
think
playing as
it
the
was just
mercenary
didn't Resident Evil 3 come out after Code Veronica, or like within the same like month or something
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that?
it definitely
They were
didn't look
close
as
together.
good.
I think it just people. It was
Yeah.
really easy to look at Code Veronica, and especially with the graphics and stuff, and like the story continuation, being like, this should have been Resident Evil 3, and this is like the side story. We're going back to Raccoon City.
Resident Evil 2 is also really freaking awesome.
Yeah,
so.
no, 2 is great. It's
So based on what you guys
arguably the
have,
best game.
so based on what you guys have seen, which of the upcoming RE titles are you most looking forward to? This?
Do I have to pick one?
You don't have to. You can abstain. You can pick this one, the Mercenaries, the Revelations one, the other 3DS, or RE4 coming out in HD later this year.
Revelations, new game,
Yeah.
seems like it's continuing it. Mercenaries
Definitely
is a
Revelations.
cash in, and I'm still a little unsure about this Operation Raccoon City.
Have they shown? Does Revelations play like Mercenaries? I mean, is it still like kind of Resident Evil 4?
Do you know how the
5 type?
controls? It's kind of like real quick. Like you can move and shoot, but what it is like you hold the R and analog. Like you still to aim, you still have to stand still and aim. When you're walking, you can like kind of like strafe and move around. It's not like full aim movement. So they're gonna Mercenaries control scheme is gonna be close to I think what Revelations is gonna be.
Yeah, that's how Mercenaries works. You can move and shoot at the same time.
The Mercenaries 3D.
Well, that was Invisible Walls, episode 153. Shane was able to grace us with his presence, so I think we've been redeemed somewhat.
I did the best I could.
We'll get you a sticker, or one of those jumping frogs, or something like that.
I'll be back next week.
And Marcus will be back next week as well. Don't really think there's too much in the way of housekeeping to take care of. Just hope you guys have been enjoying Reset. New articles going up every Saturday, so check them out. Leave some comments. We're giving lots of feedback too, kind of our dialogue between you guys and us. I know we jump in the Invisible Walls comments, but here's a spot for you guys to really, pick our brains and argue with us on a more one-to-one basis. And I think with that, Invisible Walls is out and up. Fuck!